You wake up at midnight, you get on your knees and you beg God to send you money. This is not a magic spell. This isn't superstition. I'm a channel for abundance, not a dam. Now I know what you're thinking. Rabbi, this sounds too simple. You're right, it is simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. Consciousness work is the hardest work you'll ever do. It's easier to work 3 jobs than it is to transform your relationship with money at the consciousness level. But the 3 jobs won't change your life. This will. Let me show you exactly how. Here's the specific Hebrew phrase I want you to use during your midnight practice. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihye bidvaro. In English, this translates to, Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, by whose word all came into being. Now, you might recognize this. It's a traditional Jewish blessing, often said before drinking water or eating certain foods. But let me explain why this prayer at midnight is so powerful for aligning with abundance. Most people pray for money by asking God to send them something external, a better job, a client, a windfall. They're treating God like a delivery service. But this prayer does something completely different. It acknowledges God as the infinite creative source from which everything, including money, including opportunities, including abundance, flows continuously. Let me break it down word by word so you understand the consciousness you're activating. Baruch, blessed, or more accurately, connected. You're not starting by asking for something. You're starting by acknowledging connection to source. This is the alignment shift right at the beginning. Ata Adonai, you, Lord. This is direct address. You're not praying to some distant concept. You're speaking to the infinite presence that's right here, right now. Eloheinu melech haolam, our God, King of the universe. This phrase establishes that you're connecting to infinite source, not limited resource. King of the universe means there's no shortage, no scarcity. The entire universe is his domain, and it's abundant beyond measure. Shehakol nihyeh bidvaro, by whose word all came into being. This is the key. Everything that exists came into existence through divine creative power. And here's what most people miss. That creative power didn't stop. It's not like God spoke the universe into being billions of years ago and then retired. The creative flow is constant, continuous, happening right now. When you say this prayer at midnight with the right consciousness, you're declaring, I recognize that I'm connected to the same creative source that spoke everything into existence. The same power that created galaxies and oceans and mountains is flowing right now, and I align myself with that flow. You're not asking for money. You're acknowledging your connection to the infinite creative source from which all abundance flows. Do you see the difference? It's not, please God send me $5,000. It's, I recognize I'm connected to infinite creative power and I align my consciousness with that truth. Now, here's how to actually practice this. You say the prayer 3 times. Not because 3 is a magic number, but because repetition creates neural pathways. The first time, you're saying the words. The second time, you're feeling the meaning. The third time, you're embodying the consciousness. And you say it with gratitude, not desperation. You're not begging. You're declaring truth. You're aligning. You're connecting. This is spiritual technology. And when David learned to use it correctly, everything changed. After I taught David the 3-part framework, he was skeptical. I could see it in his face. Rabbi, he said, I just spent 3 months waking up at midnight and got nothing. Why would this be different? Because, I told him, you spent 3 months begging. Now you're going to spend 30 days aligning. Different consciousness, different results. He was desperate enough to try. So he committed to 30 days using the framework I gave him. Week 1. David reported that nothing changed externally. His bank account was still a disaster. The mortgage was still overdue. But he told me something interesting. Rabbi, I feel different, less anxious. My mind is clearer. I'm having ideas I never had before. That's the first sign of consciousness shift. The external hasn't changed yet, but the internal is transforming. Week 3. An old client David hadn't heard from in over a year randomly called him, said he was thinking about selling his house and wanted David to list it. Small deal, nothing major, but it came out of nowhere. David didn't chase this client, didn't send a marketing email. The opportunity just appeared. Month 2. David started seeing a pattern. When he maintained gratitude consciousness during the day, the same consciousness he was cultivating at midnight, opportunities showed up. A conversation at his kid's soccer game led to a referral. A neighbor mentioned they knew someone looking to buy. These weren't massive breakthroughs, but they were consistent. The flow was starting. Month 4. This is when everything accelerated. 3 major deals closed in a single month. David's best month in over 2 years. The mortgage got caught up. The bank backed off. His wife stopped looking at him with that worried expression. But here's what David said that proved to me he understood. Rabbi, the midnight prayer didn't magically drop money in my lap, but it completely changed how I showed up to opportunities. I'm the same person in the same market, but I'm seeing things I was blind to before. I'm having conversations I would have avoided. I'm taking actions that feel intuitive instead of desperate. 6 months later, David's annual income had doubled. A year later, he'd paid off half his debt. 18 months later, he was financially stable for the first time in a decade. Same person, same city, same real estate market. Different consciousness, different results. This is what I mean when I say consciousness creates reality. David didn't get lucky. He didn't suddenly become a better salesperson. He transformed the consciousness he was bringing to his work, and his external reality shifted to match. But David's not the only one. Let me tell you about Miriam. Miriam came to me 2 years ago. Single mother of 3, working 2 jobs, retail during the day, bookkeeping at night. She was making just enough to survive, but she was exhausted, behind on rent some months, couldn't save anything, couldn't see a path forward. When I told her about the midnight practice, her first response was resistance. Rabbi, I barely get enough sleep as it is. I work until 10 at night. I have to be up at 6 with the kids. How can I possibly wake up at midnight? I looked at her and said, Miriam, you're choosing to stay in scarcity consciousness. I understand you're tired, but this is 15 minutes that could change your children's lives. Le dor vedor, generation to generation. Do you want to pass this struggle to your kids, or do you want to break the cycle? She cried. Then she committed to 30 days. Here's what happened. Week 2, Miriam called me excited. She'd had an idea she'd never considered before. She'd been doing bookkeeping for small businesses for years, but always as an employee. Never thought she could do it on her own. But during her midnight practice, the idea just came to her. Start her own bookkeeping service. She started small. 1 client, a friend who owned a bakery. Charged less than she should have because she was nervous. But that first client led to a referral. Then another. Month 2. Her side business brought in $500. Not life-changing, but it was money she earned outside her 2 jobs. She'd created a 3rd income stream while working the same hours. Month 6. The side business income matched what she was making at her retail job. She quit retail to focus on growing the bookkeeping business. Suddenly she had time. Time to take on more clients. Time to actually be present with her kids in the evenings. Month 10. She quit the night bookkeeping job too. Her own business was generating more than both jobs combined. She was working from home, setting her own schedule, finally in control. 18 months later, Miriam's business revenue exceeded what she'd made at both jobs combined. She'd moved to a better apartment, started saving, took her kids on their first real vacation. But here's the quote that still gives me chills. Miriam told me, Rabbi, the midnight prayer didn't give me the business. It gave me the consciousness to see the opportunity I'd been blind to for years. I had the skills all along. I had the clients all along. I just couldn't see it because I was stuck in employee consciousness, scarcity consciousness. The practice shifted something in me, and suddenly I could see a path I couldn't see before. That's the pattern. Consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. The midnight practice doesn't change your external circumstances through magic. It changes your internal consciousness, and then your external circumstances shift to match the new frequency you're broadcasting. Are you starting to understand how this works? Let me bring this all together. Midnight isn't for begging. It's for aligning with infinite source. When you wake up at Shatzot and you practice gratitude, declare your connection to abundance, and commit to generous giving. You're not performing a ritual to manipulate God. You're recalibrating your consciousness from scarcity to abundance. And when your consciousness shifts, your reality follows. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Rabbi, what if I'm not Jewish? What if I'm not worthy of this? What if God doesn't listen to someone like me? Let me answer that directly. God's abundance is infinite, not tribal, not exclusive, not rationed based on your religious background or your past mistakes. These principles are universal spiritual technology. They work for anyone willing to do the consciousness work. The Talmud teaches that the righteous of all nations have a place in the world to come. Righteousness isn't about being perfect. It's about alignment. It's about choosing abundance consciousness over scarcity consciousness. And that choice is available to everyone. Here are 3 immediate action steps I want you to take. 1. Tonight, set your alarm for midnight, not tomorrow. Tonight, commit to 30 days minimum. This is the most important decision you'll make for your financial future. 30 days of 15 minutes at midnight. If you can't commit to that, you're choosing to stay where you are. 2. Write down 3 current blessings before you go to sleep tonight. Practice gratitude consciousness now. Open the vessel. Don't wait until midnight to start. The practice begins the moment you make the decision. 3. Plan your first act of tzedakah, even if it's small. Even if it's $5 to someone who needs it more than you. Plan what you'll give when abundance starts flowing. Complete the circuit now in your consciousness, and the external will follow. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what miracle do you need? What area of your finances needs transformation? And will you commit to the midnight practice for 30 days? I want you to comment, I commit right now. Make it public. Make yourself accountable. Consciousness shifts happen when you make decisions, not when you think about making decisions. If this ancient wisdom opened your eyes to a new way of accessing abundance, make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'm sharing 3,000 years of Jewish wisdom on wealth, consciousness, and aligning with infinite source. You don't want to miss what's coming. Next week, I'm revealing the 72 names of God and which specific name attracts financial miracles. This is advanced Kabbalistic technology that most rabbis won't teach publicly. But I believe this wisdom should be accessible to everyone ready to do the work. May you align with infinite abundance. May your consciousness shift from scarcity to source. May you become a vessel that receives and gives in equal measure. Shalom.